Do you ever say to yourself, I can't do that? That's impossible? That doesn't have to be a stopping point. It can be the beginning of a new reality. This episode is about how to make the impossible possible. You're listening to Pure Light, where we explore how to become the highest version of yourself so that you feel worthy of your craziest dreams and confident in your power to make them happen. My name is Aili. I'm a coach and a Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. This is episode 59. So in the last episode, I talked about why it's a good thing when your dreams seem impossible. And I wanted to build on that in this episode with some thoughts about what to do when that happens. So last week's episode was more like the why, and this week's is more like the how. So a few years ago, when I was starting my business, I was terrified of putting myself online. And at that point, I had created a couple of videos and put them on YouTube, even though I was terrified. Like, it would make me feel panicked whenever I made one. And I was trying to figure out how to get more comfortable with putting myself out there. And I met someone who had a fairly substantial following online who suggested I do a video a day for a month to get over it. And I was in Kundalini yoga teacher training at that time. So as soon as that idea came up, I was like, oh my God, I need to do this for 40 days. Because in the Kundalini teachings, they recommend that you do the same thing for 40 days to break negative habits. And so I was like, this is a great opportunity for me to get over that fear of putting myself online. And so I started that same day that I realized I needed to do this. So there was no pre-planning or anything. Like, I jumped right in. I wasn't sure how I would find the time or the energy or the ideas to get me through 40 days because it seemed really daunting. I was like, oh my God, this is impossible. And if I had failed, I guess it could have been, a bit of a humiliation in a way, because I was I told people I was doing this and I didn't have a huge following, but it still would have been embarrassing if I hadn't gotten through it. But I did get through it, even though I didn't think I would. And what's interesting too is my videos got better along the way because I figured out how to do more stuff in terms of editing. So the first few I think are just me talking, but then as they progress, there's more things like slides and text and whatever. And so when I got to the end of those 40 days, I wrote a summary post about what I learned. And the first thing that I listed on there in terms of the things that I took away from this was, you can do things that seem impossible. So I'll include a link to that summary post in the show notes, which you can find at purelightpodcast.com under episode 59. And that post also has links to all of the videos that I made. So if you want to watch them, they're on there too. So when something feels impossible, you have a choice about how you want to respond. So there's two choices in a nutshell. One is to do nothing, and two is to do something. So that's really it. And doing something can be summed up in this way. So the first thing is really just to notice that something feels impossible. So notice the limiting belief and just be curious about it. Ask yourself, what is it about this that feels impossible? And then once you kind of have a handle on what that is, you can decide to do something about it or do nothing. So if you're doing nothing, it means that you're giving power to that belief in a way, because you're letting the belief make the decision for you as opposed to you choosing to do something about it. So when you choose to do something about it, that's a way of challenging it. So you challenge it by taking action and by doing the thing that the belief was preventing you from doing. So that doesn't mean that you need to do the whole thing all at once, but it does mean that you need to start taking steps in that direction. So when you notice something that feels impossible, you get to decide how you want to respond to that. You can let it stop you in your tracks, or you can choose to challenge the limiting belief. And choosing to challenge your limiting beliefs is what makes the impossible possible. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to Pure Light wherever you're listening to get new episodes every week to help you fall in love with yourself and see everything in a new light. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, may you be guided by your light.